I'm Maria. Today I want to talk to you about a movie that I saw over Thanksgiving, and that is Pixar's The Good Dinosaur. When this movie was first announced, I wasn't too excited about it because one of the reasons was all the promotion and all the hype was for Inside Out, and it was also the first time Pixar has released 2 movies in 1 year. So it kind of felt like this was going to be like the second best, maybe not so good, but as the trailers and the promotion kept happening, I got more and more excited about this movie, and I really wanted to see it. It just completely took me by surprise. It amazed me. It made me feel so many feelings, and I'm just warning you from now that this might be a very lengthy video and a bit of a biased opinion. As you can guess by now, I absolutely love the movie, so I'm just gonna sing its praises all throughout the video, and I think it deserves it. I know there's been a lot of mixed reviews, but bear with me and stick around because I'm going to tell you why The Good Dinosaur is just possibly one of Pixar's best movies. So The Good Dinosaur starts off with the premise of what would happen if the meteor never hit Earth and the dinosaurs were not extinct. So the dinosaurs have been around for millions of years now, so they're kind of the dominant species. They have their own groups, they have their agricultural methods, you know, they herd cattle, and this couple of dinosaurs who have their corn farm have their 3 babies, and one of their babies is the main character, Arlo. And in comparison to its brother and sister, Arlo is very fragile and a wobbly kind of dinosaur. He's much smaller than all of them, and I just loved how they show his frailty in front of every obstacle. You can tell that things are a lot harder for him than for everybody else. The way he was designed, it's just so beautiful. The attention to detail. He has like very wobbly knees and thin limbs. So the first 15 minutes of the movie is just showing how hard it is for him to adapt and how his parents are kind of trying to help him to move forwards, to blossom. They can understand that it's a little bit harder for him. So it's a lot of them trying to be patient yet getting frustrated in a way that seems very familiar, in a way that you would understand a family would get when you have a sibling or someone in the family who is just not necessarily up to par with the rest of them. It's not a bad thing, but there's just something different about them. Anyways, moving on with the story, Arlo is just a very fearful and nervous dinosaur. He just doesn't dare to do many things, and as a result of a terrible thing that happens to him, Arlo gets lost from his family, separated for miles and miles, and he has to find his way home with this very unusual creature, or as they call them, critter, which happens to be a human boy. So the odd pair has to find their way back home, and it's a journey of self-discovery and a journey of so many contrasts in which Arlo is just afraid of everything that's around him, and the boy, Spot, is not fearful at all. He knows his surroundings, he's very familiar with it, and it's really sweet to see because he's so small yet he feels so big and he dares to confront so many situations that Arlo just finds impossible. Before I get much more into the story and what I liked about it, I just want to say that even if you don't enjoy the story or you found it underwhelming, as I've heard a lot of people say, the visuals are just so stunning because you have this amazing landscape that looks like a very rural North America. I don't know, you can think Montana, Wyoming, just like very desolate, beautiful North America. So you have the most realistic background, and then you have these dinosaurs that pop out because they're sort of caricature, you know, design. It's so different. The contrast is so beautiful. The scenery is fantastic. The design of every character just made me smile all along. And I know this is sort of trivial, but once we get to the T-Rex characters and you see them running, because they're supposed to be like herders and it's very sort of Western cowboy style what they did with the T-Rex, seeing those T-Rex run with their big, gigantic, disproportionate heads and their small little arms and legs, it was one of the sweetest and cutest moments I've seen on film this year. I absolutely loved it. But moving on to the actual story, I feel very biased because this movie kind of reached out to me in a way that I was not expecting. In many ways, you can feel that the story is very simplistic. There's not, if any, subplots. It's always a story about Arlo and Spot trying to find their way home, and therefore there's not a lot of characters, you know, coming into play. So if you think of movies like Finding Nemo, where you have the story of Marlin and Dory trying to find Nemo and then Nemo trying to get out of the fish tank, you have 2 stories happening at once, and it keeps you entertained and it keeps the story rich. That is not the case with The Good Dinosaur, but that does not mean the story doesn't work. I think the fact that it was stripped out of all the subplots, that they didn't try to make it too complex, actually shows you a much more profound story and the inner journey of this dinosaur and his way of self-discovery and finding what he's made of. Because if you keep adding a lot of distractions, it becomes more about how beautiful the movie is and not about what it's saying. And I personally think this is one of Pixar's strongest message. Not in the sense of something so beautiful like what they try to do with Inside Out, including all emotions and just acknowledging that it's okay. I think it's a stronger message that it can be universally relatable for just everybody. And the message is that fear is something that everybody has. You know, you're not smaller or weaker because you are afraid. In fact, if you don't feel afraid at any point, you are not alive. And the movie just really touched my heart because I'm a person who is very anxious. I have anxiety issues, and from the very beginning I thought they just managed to show exactly what it feels like, even if people don't understand why you are afraid. And that is something that I feel I can relate to quite a lot, and I was not expecting to see in this movie. So because you are just focusing on this main character of Arlo, you get such a delightful, sweet, and flawed character. He is just so endearing, not because he's perfect or beautiful, you know, they're not trying to put him up in a pedestal. And then you add another contrast, which is, you know, Spot, who is just so brave and so strong, and he's so used to being alone and surrounded by this wilderness. And then you pair these two together and the most unlikely and sweet friendship comes out of it. I love their interactions. A lot of people complain that the movie is stripped of dialogue, and I don't know why they're complaining about that, because if Pixar can do something right, it's just give you amazing comedy or sentimental moments without a single line of dialogue. It just becomes so universal. You understand exactly what's happening, and you don't need clunky dialogue to explain it to you. It's just there. It's emotions. It's very raw and very pure. The movie lacks a main villain. The movie lacks sort of that, you know, old fairy tale character that you can pinpoint as the bad guy who's creating all the trouble. And I actually like that because it's not so much about the enemy that's outside, even though there are some characters that show you shouldn't trust them. It's more about the enemy within and that constant battle you have with yourself to not succumb to fear and just move forward. And even though it's an internal enemy, it is shown in external ways. There is this one scene, for some reason Arlo is afraid of thunder and storms, and you know, thunder is one of his triggers, sort of. So at one point he sees the thunder and it just brings back a lot of memories, and he just cannot go through with whatever he was trying to do. And I think it's such a beautiful way to show and sort of symbolize how your fears can take over and how difficult it can be to overcome them. Even if for somebody else it just seems like the simplest thing to do, for you it's a monster that's trying to get you, and they show that with nature and weather, and it's just, I mean, it's brilliant. I think this is one of those movies that you watch again and again and you go, wow, this is a masterpiece. Because what they did with Inside Out is create a universe. They constructed the architecture of somebody's mind, and that's such an interesting thing. It's a tour through the way you can explain the mind to children and even for adults. It's fantastic. But I think the story of The Good Dinosaur is so much stronger. It's simple. The vision that they had for this is so clear. You can see it from the first 10 minutes of this movie that they knew what they wanted to do and they knew what message they wanted to bring out. And yet when they show you throughout these characters that it's okay to be afraid. It's not about feeling fear. It's what you do with it. And once you push on through, what you can actually do. I mean, I teared up so many times. I think I cried 5 times in this movie because it's just such a profound message to give to children, to adults, to everybody. And personally, The Good Dinosaur is one of my favorite movies of this year. Easily could be on my top 10 of all time. So guys, if you need me to rate this movie, which clearly I don't need to do, I would say that The Good Dinosaur is for the collection. I'm serious. Go see it. Buy it. It's just splendid. It's such a delight of a movie, and it's sad but in a way that just like refreshes your heart and your mind, and I can't wait to go see it again. I probably will next week. So guys, that's just my opinion. Tell me, what did you think of The Good Dinosaur? Don't forget to leave me your answers in the comment section down below, or you can tweet me at CineClubChannel. Don't forget, if you like this video, to give it a thumbs up and to subscribe to my channel for more weekly videos. But guys, that's everything for this time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you get to see this movie and you have a great week, and I will see you on our next movie date. Bye!